Dean here with Escape to Gaming. Today is an exciting review of this wonderful Mad Max game. Now, I have been waiting for a game like this, literally. I remember having a conversation with a good gaming friend of mine back in 1995 about this exact same experience. I had played Outlander on the Super NES, which in fact I have that on my list of games to get. And it was kind of, in fact it was originally going to be called Mad Max, and they had to change the name for licensing reasons, but it was a lot of fun. And it's, basically it was him in the car with a little bit of shotgun car combat and shooting guns out in front of him, and then he'd stop and pop into little towns and everything. It was a fun game, grindingly tough, a little awkward to play nowadays, but it was fun because it was in the Mad Max universe. I never thought that I'd ever see another game until now. So I've had this game pre-ordered for actually over 2 years. That's when I first discovered it, back in late 2012, I believe. I started seeing screenshots and heard that Avalanche Studios, who makes my beloved Just Cause 2, was at the helm, and I was very excited. I said, finally, an open world game, and they'll do it justice, because they're really good at attention to detail, and they're masters of open world games, like Just Cause 2. And now they got this wonderful new Just Cause 3 coming out, which I'm very excited about. So no one could be more excited than myself, a Mad Max fan. I even have it on the license plate of my truck, Z Mad Max, on my Dodge Ram truck with a Hemi in it. And I'm a huge fan, needless to say. I've seen every single one of the movies more than once at the theater. And even the original Mad Max, I saw it in an old drive-in many years ago. So I've been there forever. I love the Mad Max universe. I actually like every one of the films, and the new Fury Road is no exception. George Miller did a masterful job. It's an action-packed thrill ride from start to finish. And I think that's why they probably held off in the game, because they actually took the time and care to kind of have the movie tie-ins with, frankly, all of the films. But what I would probably call the game, instead of calling it Mad Max, is I'd call it the Road Warrior, and call it the Wasteland Simulator, because that really is what it's all about. You're really much closer to the Road Warrior. The Mad Max was kind of before everything fell apart, at the beginning when civilization was just starting to crumble, and it was Max as a cop and against roving motorcycle gangs and what have you. But the Road Warrior was a quantum leap in films, and it certainly ushered in a whole new era of this Road Warrior style movies, which we had, with the Road Warrior and Beyond Thunderdome and now Fury Road, where it kind of takes it out way out into the wasteland where he's roaming, kind of this nebulous journey. He's just kind of going through life and surviving any way that he can. Sometimes he stops to help people, sometimes he doesn't. He acts indifferent, but at the end of the day, he has a soul deep down inside, what's left of it, and he's trying to hang on to it. And that's kind of what the overarching story is with this new Mad Max game. It really is, it takes Max, and it's not so much a story-driven game, although there is a very good narrative, and I like the cutscenes and the story developing. I think it's quite good. But it's more of a Mad Max or Road Warrior experience where you play as Max out in the wasteland. The game plays out any way you want it to. This is one of those games where it'd be hard to even watch a Let's Play of it, because every Let's Play would be completely different. You can get so sidetracked, leveling up, doing side content and all that. It's fantastic. You're talking about a giant open world. It's huge. I mean, this is not a game you're going to rush through and put in, 7 to 12 hours and then you're done with it. This is a game I honestly could see you putting 60, 80, or easily over 100 hours, and I'm not kidding. I've already put a week. I've been on this game every day for a week. I actually planned ahead, knowing this game was coming, and I planned on taking a half a week off to really roll my sleeves up and get into it. I've been playing it morning, noon, and night. It's one of those games where you'll start to play it, and you say, I'll just play it for a couple hours and I go to bed, and all of a sudden you look and 8 hours have gone by, it's early in the morning. It's one of those kind of games, which to me is the perfect sign of a great game. If you can get lost in it, be that immersed where you can't even keep track of time and reality, it's an excellent hallmark of a wonderful game, in my opinion. Anyway, what you have with this game is it's really about exploration and survival. We have very limited resources. Food and water are really hard to come by. What's great about the game is there's no damn regenerating health. This is one of those old school games where you go out with very limited health. So when you start getting injured, you got to find water, and you may have to get in your car and drive for miles to find a water spot or to find a can of dog food, which is kind of like what they showed in the Road Warrior, to eat out of, or finding a carcass with maggots to get some nourishment. It's very grim, and it's a dark game from that perspective, but at the same time it's very cool in that very limited resources. You may find 1 or 2 shotgun shells, and like you hang on to them like they're precious. Thank God for these couple shells, and you save them for when you absolutely need them. Usually boss battles, you're up against multiple cars, and you got one shot at blowing up a gas tank to try to lessen the numbers coming after you. That's what's great about the game, is that it really it's a focus on limited resources, to where you can take the time and slowly build up your character, level him up to where he can hold more ammo. He has more attributes. It has multiple RPG elements, not just with health, but with the weapons, how he fights with the melee fighting, the car combat. You can certainly level Max himself up with his garb, the way he looks. Thicker gloves with studs in them to where he does more melee damage. Holsters that carry more ammo, that kind of thing. It's fantastic. There's tools that you can acquire. You get a crowbar, and once you get that crowbar, now there's new doors and boxes that you can get through that you couldn't get through before. And it's fantastic in that respect. This game is rich and deep and vast with RPG elements. It's almost overwhelming. This game, if any game begs for a strategy guide, it's this one. I was very disappointed, and frankly, that's my only complaint with the game. It's not so much the game, but I wish Brady or Prima strategy guides would have taken the time and care to put together a strategy guide. It would have made a little bit more sense of this massive, overwhelming options that you have. There's so many things. Just when you think you understand the game, it throws in new elements, new weapons, new upgrades that you never even saw coming. That's what I love about the game. The game is a constant, pleasant surprise. It's always got something new around the corner. For me, it never gets stale or old. I never get bored. I never find it repetitive like some people have claimed. I haven't raced through this game to get this review. I've taken my time. And this is a game, frankly, I'll be playing right up until the release of Battlefront easily. I see months of my life in this, and it definitely will be a go-to game for this guy, because I love Mad Max and I love the Mad Max universe. And this game finally gives you a chance, if you're a fan of the films, to roll your sleeves up and to see what it's like in the big wasteland, where you can make the choices and options that you want. That's where the game gets it right. Now, there's tons of quests you can do with this game. Everything from, they have these what they call scarecrows, or big towers that have these flames on them. If you pull those down or smash through them, some of them are stronger than others, but if you take them down, then you limit the enemies in that particular region of the map, and it's fantastic. There's also sniper outposts everywhere. You got to be extremely careful with them. They'll try to get a bead on you. I use my nitrous and try to blast past them as fast as I can. But if you take the time and the rest to slow down and stop and get one of them, get as far away as you can, but close enough to where you can see them and snipe them, you take them out, or you can rip the sniper tower down with your trusty harpoon, which is another wonderful addition to the game, which makes it so cool. Now you limit the snipers in that area, so when you go through that area again, you won't take on the risk. There's minefields even in certain places on the map. And Max, believe it or not, has his trusty reunion with his dog back. And you find this dog that's injured, you take it, you build it a little place within your stronghold. You can take him out in Chum Bucket's, and Chum Bucket's a wonderful character too. You take him out in Chum Bucket's buggy, and you look for mines, and you just one by one get through the minefield and disarm the minefield. And what's great is if you're being chased into the minefield, some of your enemies will actually run right over the mines and get blown up. It's very entertaining. There's so much to this game. You could have an hour-long review of this. There's really that much to it. So you have all the quests to do. There's races you can do. There's strongholds to take down, and oil transfer stations. Each of these has a certain criteria and a syntax of how to take them down. They certainly aren't easy. There's sniper bases outside. There's flamethrowers. It's very much like the little base in the compound that we saw in the Road Warrior movie. Very much like that. Very cool. So there's a certain way to slowly infiltrate. You can use a little bit of stealth to get in, but basically once you're in, the game is over. They have what's called a war cry. It's like a little mini hot air balloon. He's slightly elevated. If you take him out quickly before he sounds the main alarm, then your enemies aren't quite as buffed, and you can take them down. Very cool. So it's rich with layers upon layers of RPG elements, certain syntaxes of taking down the strongholds. It kind of reminds me of taking down the strongholds in Just Cause 2, but there's even more to it in this. Now, you have a lot of wonderful characters as well. Chum Bucket is one of the early characters you meet in the game. He's this kind of like a hunchback, deformed character. He sees Max as some kind of a messiah and actually worships him and calls him the saint. And he lives for Max and lives to help Max build his ultimate car to try to go on his quest across the wasteland. It's one of the most delightful characters I've ever seen in a game. He talks all the time, his reactions, just little random things he does while he's in the back of the car. If your car gets badly damaged, you can click a button, he jumps over the roof, gets right to the motor, puts out the fire, gets the thing up and running again, and you're back on the road. It's very, very cool. You can use him if you're in a multiple convoy combat, car combat. You can use one of your front bumper buttons to aim and use Chum Bucket to use the harpoon to rip off doors of cars that are adjacent to you, or bumpers, or rip the driver himself out of the car if you can get at him, get a gas tank. It's fantastic. Or you can certainly use that also for taking down, for pulling off. You'll find cars out in the desert. You can use the harpoon to grab onto them and then put the car in reverse and rip open a grating, which uncovers a huge underground catacomb filled with loot. The game is really about looting. And the loot that you find in the scrap metal, that's how you slowly acquire the cash that you need to buy the upgrades for the magnum opus, which is the car Max is trying to build to get on his quest across the wasteland. And I can get everyone trying to stop you in this process, which makes it so cool. So the story is actually told through a little bit through characters that you meet. Each character that you finally unlock, they'll have like a bio section in the main menu. You go in there and you can actually hear them talk, plus see their words. And they'll give you a background story as to what has happened in the wasteland. And a lot of the stories actually tie in with the Morton Joe character from Fury Road, which is very cool. So it's kind of like a prequel to Fury Road in some respects. And you'll see other tie-ins, certainly with the Road Warrior and even Beyond Thunderdome. It's so epic in that respect. It's a wonderful tribute to the fan service that Avalanche Studios did with this game. I'm really pleased with an authentic Mad Max Road Warrior experience that they've pulled off, and they really have done it in spades with this. So you have wonderful characters that you slowly and kind of uncover the story of the wasteland and what happened. And not only that, but some of the collectibles that you find are these very rare and seldom you come across relics, old photographs and brochures and things, and then you can look at them and flip them over and read what's on the back, old postcards, photographs, what have you. And it's a wonderful and frankly touching story to what happened leading up to this giant disaster that destroyed the planet. So there's lots of wonderful story elements that you slowly uncover. Again, this is why it's not a game to rush through. This is one of those adventures that you're going to beat 30 plus hours very easily in this game. If you rush through it, I don't think you could beat the game in really under 30 hours. I've got over 25 hours in it now, and in some respects I feel like I've barely scratched the surface. There's still so much to do. It's that deep of a game. I see 100 hours easy in this. It's so epic that they've put so much into it. Now, some of the reviewers I've seen have complained about, oh God, they just litter things all over the place, way too many quests and too many things to discover, but they are done so beautifully and so uniquely. There's so many hidden caves, underground areas. Sometimes you find what's left of a ship. You go into the ship and there's actually a tunnel that goes down underneath to a series of catacombs. They may or may not be infested with enemy, and there's all different types of enemies that come at you, very much like Sleeping Dogs or the Batman game, which I'll get to next. So with the fighting, like Batman, you could just he would automatically go to whichever is the closest threat and go right after him. This game, they've put more thought, they've streamlined the button controls to where it's more simplified. But frankly, I like it because the fighting is a lot more difficult. The counters, like you'll be right in the middle of fighting one person and countering and hitting them with medium or heavy hits, and then all of a sudden someone else, you're not even done with him, will come into the picture, which is more realistic, and try to take you out, and you have to quickly turn to him and counter that person. And then meanwhile the other guy's regaining his consciousness and health, and he's coming back at you. So the fighting is extremely satisfying. Frankly, I think it's better than Sleeping Dogs and the Batman Origins, which I played, and I really loved the fighting in both of those. It's a lot more violent and visceral. The takedown, slowly you build up Max's ability to do more hardcore moves, including even a close-up shotgun blast. Some of your enemies get in too close, and you save that as a last resort. Sometimes some of the ones that are really threatening will come at you, these red little lightning bolts above their head. You have to quickly roll out of the way because there's no way to counter them, and they do major damage. So sometimes I'll save my shotgun shells just for those SOPs. But it's a lot of fun. The combat system is fantastic with the melee. It's brutal, and it's so challenging that it makes you think twice about jumping into taking down a stronghold. That I like, and it also makes you think twice about taking on major convoys, because you can get overwhelmed, your car can get disintegrated real fast if you're not careful. So the car, you've got the sniper rifle built into your car, so you stop quick, it gets out of the car, goes to the trunk, jumps in the back, gets a sniper rifle you can use. You have to set it up your shots very quick and get on it, because in the meantime, they're sniping you. But while you're driving, you've got this not a grappling hook, you get this harpoon, which you can harpoon the parts of the cars. You can harpoon people themselves out of perches in towers or out of the cars themselves. It's very, very cool. Great for ripping down towers. Great for car combat. That's kind of the secret to it, is you got to really utilize all of the tools that you have. If you just stick to one formula, you get your ass handed to you more times than not. So I like the game. It's very complex in some respects, and in some respects the control system itself is very basic, but I think it's an extremely well-balanced game. I can see why Avalanche put an extra couple years into this game, because it paid off. It's a very balanced game and very well done. Now the graphics, I have the PS4 version of this, but the graphics in it look incredible. This is probably the most gorgeous game I've ever played on the PlayStation 4, and I thought The Last of Us and some of those other ones were incredible and couldn't be surpassed. But for an apocalyptic wasteland, it's much more detailed than you think. There's so much to it. It's very beautiful. The map is enormous, and each area reflects a different type of desert. Initially, you don't even realize that you're actually starting off in the bottom of a giant ocean seabed, and then slowly you get up to more elevated ground, which is very cool. So it has a full, right when you think you've seen everything, then you get into a new region on the map, and you see a whole new aspect to the world that you've never even thought of. It's fantastic. Gorgeous attention to detail, wonderful lighting, a wonderful day and night cycle. It is very impressive. It makes for great shots, screenshots, especially with the PS4. I'm sure the Xbox One has it too, where you can stop the game and take a beautiful shot of your car and everything, and I'll get to more of that in a minute. It's wonderful, the day-night cycle. There's random sandstorms, little dusters that come swirl through. If you're in the car, you'll survive, and your car can get moved up in the air a little bit, but that lands back down. But God forbid you're out of the car, like I was last night. I was trying to loot an area, and all of a sudden a sandstorm kicked up and blew up a bunch of gas cans and created hell and beat my health down to nothing as I was trying to get back to the safety of the magnum opus. It's so cool, the many random little things, flocks of birds you'll see, papers blowing in the wind, sand blowing over the roadways, and then if that's not enough, they had these incredible giant storms, kind of like they had in Fury Road, and they're all different. Some of them will just be super high winds and sand blowing. Others will be like a lightning electrical storm with lightning smashing, crashing down and blowing up cars around you and things. It's very, very dangerous. You got to try to get to shelter, find a cave, anything you can. Even in your car, you're not safe. But the beauty is sometimes these storms will have these enormous piano-sized crates in them. filled with scrap and loot. So if you take the risk, and I found a couple of these and almost died in the process trying to get them, you click open these crates, smash them open, and there's tons of loot in them. So it makes it kind of worthwhile to look for these big tumbling crates during these giant storms and get them if you can. Sometimes even after the storm subsides, a crate will remain there for a little while and you have a little bit of time to get to it. But it's a fantastic game, rich with so many wonderful ideas, and every single one of them is, in my opinion, is brilliantly done, beautifully executed, and works smoothly. The car combat and driving is fantastic, extremely smooth. I've never seen, I've been playing games since Twisted Metal and Vigilante 8, these car combat games for years. Blood Drive and other newer ones I've played as well. I love car combat games, and especially the game Rage, which also did it very, very well with a wonderful graphical presentation. But this game has even better car combat, incredible attention to detail with the cars, the way they get beat up. Each car has different weak spots, and the cars react very differently depending on how they're hit. If you hit a rock, or if you get sideswiped, if you ram someone head on, the cars react to how you have the car built, damage, what have you. It's very, very well thought out, very well done. The nitrous is fantastic. And one of the favorite things, which I didn't even know it had, I kind of came across it by accident, was a wonderful first-person driving view, which now is one of my favorite views. It can be very tricky when you're in like a major car combat situation, but it's so realistic, and it's the ultimate way to experience Max. Inside his Interceptor or his magnum opus, wide open in the wasteland. It's very, very epic. I can't rave enough about how cool the first-person mode alone is. Now, what the game also has, which I just discovered again last night, there's so many wonderful hidden elements in it, is I saw someone else post a video about there's a capture mode in the game, and I go, well, yeah, I've been using the screen capture on the PS4, but it actually has a very detailed, intricate capture mode within the game. You go to the main menu, go down to capture mode, and you can actually freeze the game, pan the camera way up, pan down low. You can look at things in the background, play with the depth of field focus, the blur effects, create a soft halo or shadow around the edge, multiple effects, filters for days, tons of wonderful filters, posterization filters, kind of stark red and black filters, you name it, it has it. I was very surprised, and it shows that Avalanche put a tremendous amount of time. You get your money's worth. I would pay, with no exaggeration, hundreds for this game. It's that good. This is worth the cost of a next-gen console, in my opinion, alone, just to play this game. I've had quite a few friends that are disappointed that they didn't come out with a PS3 and Xbox 360 version. I can see why. They wanted to focus on making this the most intricate, realistic, photorealistic wasteland experience imaginable, and Avalanche succeeded big time with it. It's the closest thing to the Mad Max films, honestly, in my opinion. A wonderful job that they did. So, so far, I've had the incredible experience with it. It's wonderful. It's just one of those games where you keep being surprised with everything you see. You think you've seen it all, and then something radically different happens. There's lots of hidden, like, bear traps where you're going through caves, and some of the hot air balloons that you go to unlock a region are fantastic. And getting to them can be very arduous. You have to be very, very careful. Sometimes you lose a lot of health in the process, or you have to use a gas can to blow open a door that you can't get through, as well as using it to refill your car. So you always want to keep an extra can of gas in the back of the old magnum opus, just in case. Sometimes you find these great hot air balloons, and when you find those, kind of like the towers of Far Cry 3 and 4, you can fill, some of them you have to fill up with gas, some of them already have gas in them. You ascend the balloon, it has this beautiful shot of it going up above the area. You can pan around, see everywhere. You can use binoculars, look through it, and then tag all the enemy installations and enemies in the area. It's a beautiful addition to the game, and one that I really appreciate as an artist and a graphical person. Fantastic. So, just getting to some of those balloons can be really tricky. Some of them actually have enemy camps at the base of them. You have to fight through a cavalcade of enemies just to get to them, but it's always well worth it in the end. The other thing with the capture mode as well is it not only has a great photo mode, but it has filters and ways you can actually play the game itself. with some of these cool filters. You can play and actually go in real time, play the whole game with a lot of these excellent filters. It's the attention to detail like that that Avalanche put into the game, and the wonderful graphical presentation. It's one of the best I've seen in a game. The sound design is impeccable. Fantastic sound. Wonderful job with the sound of the cars and the metal and the creaking and going over rough surfaces and rocks, and when you impact things and hit it, you feel it. The subwoofer puts it in, it works overtime to try to really get that sound across. The sound of the explosions are over the top. What's cool is as the game progresses, the explosive nature of the game ramps up and ramps up. I mean, just when you think you've kind of seen every explosion, now the explosions get even bigger. Now the shotgun does even more damage, it gets more violent. The explosions are bigger. You start to get these boom sticks, which are fantastic. You can grab these sticks, you can throw them at enemies, throw them into their cars, throw them against doors, what have you, blow them up. It's so cool. It's so many wonderful things. So just when you think you've seen it all, they introduce new weapons and new elements to the game, which makes the fighting even more satisfying and over the top. It's a very visceral and violent game, and kind of a dark game in many respects, but that's why I like the Chum Bucket character. It adds just the right touch of lightheartedness, which makes it interesting. Not only with Chum Bucket's cool, but you have another character he's called a Griffin, and he's kind of a mystical, magical character. You don't know if he's real or if he's in the mind of Max, but a little icon appears on the map, and eventually you get these points, which you can go in and you can build up the attributes of your character, Max, kind of like Fallout 3. All of these different attributes that you can put points into, and you can allocate them the way you want. Where you want to get more water, he gets more water. As he gets more food from eating a can of food he finds. He could do more damage with a melee weapon, let's say. Your car could use less fuel, that kind of thing. There's just so many layers of gameplay and RPG elements to the game that makes it fantastic. I can't rave enough about the game. You can tell I'm a huge fan of it. I'd like to see the game do well. It has had some strange mixed reviews, and what I kind of, reading between the lines, which at 52 years old I've kind of learned to do, is you can see a lot of people were just in a hurry to get their review out. They rushed through the game. They almost resented the game for slowing down and making you hold a button to pick an item up, kind of like they did in Wolfenstein: The New Order, which even that adds to the realism, because in real life, and that's what I had to do, sometimes you blow up a car, you have to run out of your car real quick, run out in the road, you gotta stop for a minute, hold the button for just a couple seconds to pick that item up. Meantime, the bandits are coming at you, and you gotta roll out of the way, quickly get that item, get the next one, try to get back in the car. It adds to the realism, just like the melee combat with the fighting. As you're not finished with one character and another character comes in, you gotta quickly address him and counter him instead. The game is extremely well thought out. I think that a lot of people just don't get the game, or they have no love for the Mad Max universe. They have no problem grinding through the games that they like. And there are many different genres of open world games, from Skyrims and, The Witcher 3, obviously. These are gorgeous games. The wonderful Shadow of Mordor that came out recently, which I actually have on my list of games to get. They love those games because they like the premise. They'll grind through those, and they don't notice any of the repetitive nature. But a game like this, if they're not into the car combat, and especially the Road Warrior or the Mad Max universe, they probably wouldn't appreciate the game to the same degree that I do and many of my friends do. But anyway, it's a fantastic game. I would highly recommend it. Believe it or not, this game quickly went to the top of my top 10 video games of all time. It's honestly that good. I'm ultra impressed. I'm obviously biased because I'm a huge fan, but Avalanche did so many things right and put so much love and care and detail into this world that you really can get lost in this, and I find it highly immersive. Would highly recommend it. So anyway, I hope you like my little review. It's what I've been wanting to do for a while, but I wanted to get more into the game to really understand what the whole game is about, and I'm glad I waited and took my time on it, because it made for a wonderful experience. I'm going to continue this exploration of the wasteland for months to come. So thank you very much for watching, and enjoy your games.